May I welcome you all for attending the 7th meeting of the Select Committee to inquire into the background of and reasons for delay of the construction of the Hong Kong section of the GZSC Hong Kong Express Rail Link. Today, the witnesses are Mr. Henry Chen Chi Yan, Principal Government Engineer, Railway Development, and Government Engineer LD to Mr. Tam Hon Choi. The Select Committee has agreed to the request of Mr. Chen and Mr. Tam to allow accompanying persons to attend the meeting. And accompanying Mr. Chen and Mr. Tam are the Chief Engineer, Railway Development Pt1, Mr. Chen Choi Wai, and the Senior Government Counsel of the Development Bureau, Mr. Lin Kwok Kung. I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that the accompanying persons accompanying Mr. Chen and Mr. Tam may not address the Select Committee. I'd like to remind the witnesses that this committee has not been given the powers under the Electrical Powers and Privileges Ordinance Section 9(1) of Cap 382. So the witnesses are not protected under Cap 382. And in the process of the inquiry under Section 18 of Cap 82, any person who before the Select Committee intentionally gives a false answer to any question material to the subject of inquiry during the course of any examination or presents to the Select Committee any false and true fabricated and falsified document with intent to deceive the Select Committee commits an offense. But I believe the witnesses will truthfully assist the work of the Select Committee. The Select Committee has formulated its own practice and procedure, and I would like to draw your attention to the following. The privileges of members provided in Cap 382 are available only within the context of the hearings. All members, including non-Select Committee members, should refrain from making comments relating to the hearing outside of the proceedings of the Select Committee. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind those in the public gallery and also the mass media that dissemination, disclosure of evidence given at a hearing outside the proceedings of the Select Committee is not protected under Cap 382. The media and members in the public should obtain legal advice as to their legal responsibilities. Later, I will invite the witnesses to confirm the written submissions that they have given to the Select Committee, and the submissions were adopted as evidence. And all the documents that have been considered by the Select Committee and subject to the agreement of the committee will be disclosed to the public, and they will be uploaded to the website. Now we have a quorum and we've reached the appointed hour. I now declare the formal start of the hearing. Now, Mr. Chen, you submitted a written submission to the Select Committee on the 29th September 2015, paper number W11C. Do you formally produce the submission as evidence? Yes, I do. To facilitate members of the public in the gallery and also the media to follow the proceedings upon their request, I will disclose the submissions to them. Do you have anything to supplement to your submission? No, sir. Mr. Tam Hon Choi, on the 29th of September 2015, you provided a written submission to the Select Committee Secretariat. That is paper W12C. Do you formally produce the written submission as evidence? Yes, I do. Do you have anything to supplement offhand? No. Sir, I'd like to remind members that according to Practice and Procedure Part 15, in the public hearing, members should only ask questions for the purpose of ascertaining facts relevant to and within scope of the Select Committee's inquiry. Members should not make comments or statements during this hearing. I will decide which question or which piece of evidence is directly relevant to the scope and terms of reference of the hearing. The chairman has the discretion to decide whether the question is a follow-up question and whether it should be allowed or otherwise. Furthermore, each member will be given 10 minutes for questions and answers by the witness, and members may put the question to one or both witnesses. With regard to today's hearing, I would like to put my question to Mr. Chen Chi-yan. Mr. Chen, according to paragraph 24 of your written submission, you are the PGERD. You're responsible for monitoring the progress of railway works under the PWP and assist the Director of Highways to liaise with the THB to deal with matters relating to the express rail and attend the monthly project supervisory committee meetings. Would you like to describe to the select committee how, in discharging your duties, what difficulties have you encountered according to your experience with regard to the monitoring mechanism for the express rail? Is it effective? Thank you, Chairman. As the PGERD, who was responsible for monitoring the express rails, concerning the difficulties of monitoring, this is the first time that the concession approach has been adopted for the construction of a railway. Therefore, we have adopted an indirect monitoring approach. We check the checker, the so-called check-to-checker approach. This is an indirect type of monitoring. The monitoring team is a small team, a dozen or so members within the RDO. We rely on the MTRCL as the direct monitoring agency. They have senior engineer, site inspectors in their team. They have several hundred members. With regard to the verification of information, we need to rely on the first-hand information obtained by the MTRCL. The Highways Department relies on the timely report of the MTRCL, and through reporting, we know the progress of the works. Of course, we do have an external M&B consultant to assist us. But in the process, the most important thing is the report of the MTRCL. If it is, and then the timely report. With the timely report, we can also report to the THB. If the external parties, or rather, will there be any gap between in this indirect management? Is hard to say. Under the Highways Department, there is only a team of a dozen or so people doing the monitoring. If there is any gap, I think after the completion of the whole project, we should conduct a review. Now, you mentioned that your role was to check the checker. In this role, do you think within the system, are there any gaps or missing links? And now in this monitoring process, there is a three-tier system. No, I'm very familiar with your system or structure. With regard to check the checker, with regard to the process, are there any gaps or missing links? In the monitoring process within this three-tier system, Chairman, you're familiar with that, and that includes the CRM and also the Coordination Committee, or PCG, or rather the PCM. And we also have the consultants. They do their work on a monthly basis. They have done their part. So the verification process is smooth. So you think there is no missing link or gap? As for Jacobs, the consultants, every month they take samples of they take important or critical samples. They monitor the integrated process of the projects. In their monthly checking or verification, they have not found anything which is non-compliant. So they think the system is adequate. Check.
So is it correct to say that in terms of a check and checker process, you rely almost solely on Jacobs in fulfilling the duty of supervision, not necessarily apart from engaging the consultant in the process? Every month our chief engineer would take part in the review committee, that is the contract review meetings with the MTRCR representatives. So we are aware of the progress of the projects under the contract, and together with Jacobs, we also conduct site inspections. And we also learn from documents, reports from the contract review meetings, CRMs. We learn about the progress of construction projects on a monthly basis, including the delay and the extent of the delays. And when there are delays, we will implement delayed recovery procedures, DRMs, to expedite the progress. Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. There are two witnesses, Chairman. And in terms of the construction of the XRL Hong Kong section, I want to know more about their respective roles and the division of work. So I hope that both can take the questions to make our session more effective. So first of all, I'd like to know about your past experience in supervising railway projects. So a question to both of you. Before you joined the government, have you ever taken part in any work in relation to railway construction? And after you joined the government, before you assumed the present post, have you ever participated in any supervision of railway projects? Now that's the first question. Second question, well, about the commissioning target of August 2015. I wonder if the two of you took part in setting this commissioning date, and have you ever questioned the validity of this date, and have you ever reflected your views on the completion date, and whether there is any record of such? Another question. The former Highways Director, Mr. Wai Chi-sing, pointed out in the hearing on the 2nd of June 2015 that there are altogether over 40 projects with different commencement date, and that we should not just look at the commencement dates, we should also look at the completion date, or rather not just the completion date but the commencement date. When there is a delay of the completion date on the one hand, it will cause an impact on the commencement date of the other project. So about the 40-odd projects or contracts under the project, how many contracts have experienced a delay in terms of its commencement date? And has there been any adjustment? And could this be a reason for delays in the number of projects? Another question. Previously, I asked a similar question, and I recall I put the same question to a number of witnesses before. Now, between the endorsement of the proposal by the City and Council to signing of the second entrustment agreement, it took only about 21 months, relatively short. And according to some information, the international standard for this kind of work is around 37 months on average. So only 21 months for the advanced works. Now, in hindsight, would you agree that this is not sufficient? And would the both of you agree that in terms of advanced works or preparation, had more time been given, it would have helped the progress later on, and therefore minimizing delays subsequently? Mr. Chen. Thank you, Chairman. On the 18th of October 2010, I assumed the position of PGERD, and previously I worked in the railways, the CDD, and the Highways Department and the Transport and Housing Bureau. I have over 30 years of experience. I have also took part in a number of infrastructure projects such as site formation, reclamation projects, pier, public field banks, and also, well, Mr. Chan, would you like to speak up, please, or speak into the microphone? And also railway planning. And in my project team, my other colleagues, including Mr. Tam, also has also is very experienced. So, Mr. Tam, I joined this project in 2012, and before that, in CDD, I also took up some large projects. They may not be directly relevant to the railway project, but they are somewhat related. I took part in some planning study in the North Lantau, and also the construction of and design of Disneyland, and also the advanced works and the planning for the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. I also took part in that. As for the second question, on whether we took part in the preparation, and the second entrustment agreement was signed in January 2010. Before that, Mr. Tam and I, Mr. Tam and I had not joined the RDO then, so we did not take part in the preparation of this project. I'm sorry, Chairman, perhaps let me supplement. My question is in relation to the commissioning target of August 2015, about the decision of setting this target. Are you saying that you did not take part in setting this target? Right, we did not. Third question. On whether the completion date of some projects would be conflicting or impacting on subsequent contracts commencement dates. I understand that there was a delay in contract 811, Project 811, and regarding retaining walls, and we therefore had to implement delay recovery measures. Because of the delay in 811, the commencement of Project 810A was affected, and I understand that at the time when the contract was signed, the completion date of Project Pt10A had not been pushed back. The MTRCL also took part in the review, and they believed that they could catch up with the progress. And I understand the MTRCL believed that the delay recovery measures could be implemented to catch up with the delay for the timely completion of the project. Last question regarding the period of 21 months from the CN Council giving policy support to the signing of the second entrustment agreement, whether the period was too short. Well, in terms of planning, from endorsement by the CN Council to signing of the EA2, there was a period of 21 months. But well, is it the major factor causing a delay? We believe that we should reserve our position in terms of whether the MTRCL has caused a delay. Because of that, so it's not appropriate for me to comment on it here. I have some follow-up questions, but first of all, Mr. Tam, would you like to respond to these questions as well? Basically, Mr. Chan, PG, already explained our position. Now, in terms of major projects, they may have to be broken down into individual contracts, and sometimes amendments may be necessary depending on the progress. So responding to Dr. Lo's question, as explained by Mr. Chen, for 810A, a major contract in West Kowloon, exactly this scenario occurred because of the delay in the advance works. The commencement date had to be pushed back, and the MTRCL made some arrangements to allocate some of the work to another project or to another contract. So under this arrangement, the MTRCL proposed that tendering could be proceeded with without any change of completion date, and the bid submitted by tenderers showed that no extension would be necessary. Now, the delays in some projects may cause a delay in the commencement of other projects, or may cause compression in the construction timetable of some other projects. Now, in the monthly meeting, and as I pointed out before, according to the figures, overall speaking, the figures haven't shown that because of the effort made, the delay problem has been resolved. Rather, the gap is getting wider. As you mentioned in the actual example. Well, if we could see that you could recover delays, then maybe we would be more reassured. But the figures reflect the contrary. So have you ever questioned the situation? Mr. Chen. Now, we understand that in major projects, unforeseen situations may occur. And yet in the major projects, we at the same time respect the MTRCL's strategy in implementing the delay recovery measures to catch up with the progress. And the MTRCL has been having very good performance.
They employed very appropriate DRMs to catch up. Now the project management committee, or rather PCM, the project control group, they proposed DRMs, delay recovery measures. The Highways Department was also involved in proposing the DRMs. They would provide a justification and also the expected outcome. We were involved. We participated and we gave our comments. After approving the DRMs, then the DRMs would be incorporated into the original works period. Now, with the incorporation of such measures in the works period, will there be other unforeseen circumstances such that the DRMs would be less effective? That might be possible. Now, from the start of the delay recovery measures, we will work through the CRM and also site inspection to follow up on the effectiveness of the DRM. Chairman, the question is that, objectively speaking, whether the DRMs are appropriate or not, I'm not querying that. My question is about the actual outcome and effectiveness. According to the numbers provided to this council, we have seen that the date is further and further away, or the progress is further and further away from the target completion date. There is no recovery. I do not query the DRMs, but I have not seen any effectiveness. I have not seen any actual catching up. And finally, I hope the two gentlemen will answer the following question. Now, this is a new approach, that is the concession approach between the government and the MTRCL. Is it because of this new approach that you are unable to effectively discharge your monitoring duties? In responding to Mr. Lowe's question, I can quote the opening remarks of our director on the 24th of March 2015. This is the first time that the concession approach and the entrustment approach have been adopted, and we need some time to adjust to this new approach. And this is also the first time that we have adopted an indirect approach, the checker approach in monitoring the implementation of works. We do see that there are inadequacies. In the future, if we are to adopt the same approach, the Highways Department and the MTRCL must review this approach and consider whether the checker approach and concession approach are the best ways to deliver the railway projects. And we need to review the details. I have no further questions on this point. Thank you. The Highways Department, in delivering this project, has an important role to play in monitoring the overall implementation of the works by the MTLCL, and also to make sure that public funds are used prudently. Since October 2010, Mr. Chen has become the PGERD. He has started his involvement in the express rail projects. He is also a member of the PSC. According to paragraphs 40 to 49 of Mr. Chen, the reasons for delay include unfavorable ground conditions, the complexity of the delay at the WKT site, and also the shortage of resources of the contractors. Mr. Chen, you are a senior, a very experienced engineer, and you have participated in similar civil engineering works. With regard to those factors, say for example, unforeseen underground conditions or site conditions, or diversion of underground utilities, and also temporary traffic management measures. With regard to the construction of the express rail, there are two entrustment agreements. In 2008, with regard to the design and site investigation, there was the EA1. With regard to unforeseen conditions, being an experienced engineer, such factors have been considered. With regard to unforeseen factors, such as the underground, the ground conditions, and also underground utilities, these uncertain factors in respect of even ordinary projects are affecting the engineers from time to time, and they are thorny problems. Say, for example, underground utilities are only found after a trench has been dug. There may be known and unknown utilities underground, and there may be a diversion needed, and they will take a lot of time. They will also affect the temporary traffic diversion measures. In drawing up temporary traffic measures, we need to have a comprehensive plan. We need the cooperation of relevant departments. If the temporary traffic diversion arrangement is affected, then the general public and the road users in particular will be affected. And after the underground utilities are exposed, if it is found that this condition is very tight and you cannot move the utility sideways by a few meters, then you may have to conduct a very large-scale diversion. This is a small scale, maybe a small scale unforeseen factor that may lead to a long delay. Chairman, basically, Mr. Chen is aware of these unforeseen factors. In fact, they are known to affect the progress of works. Being the checker, you should know the detailed information and plan ahead so as to minimize the adverse impacts. Say with regard to ground conditions, being the Highways Department, you have been monitoring the project for some time. Have you ever asked the MTRCL to obtain more information so that it can arrange the progress of works more correctly or accurately, instead of just waiting on the start of the project or the opening up of a trench before they do anything? Have you ever asked the MTRCL to do something in advance, and if yes, what has been done? With regard to the site, with regard to the ground conditions, in the site investigation works, the MTRCL did their part. With regard to the whole West Kowloon terminus site, there are many boulder issues. They did 600 drill holes. They drill into the distance is 14.4 meters between each hole. In comparison with the GEO under the CEDD, which requires an average of 30 meters apart, this one is even better. They have done a lot of large-scale investigation, but it doesn't mean that they have the full knowledge of each boulder and the location of each boulder accurately. With regard to ground conditions and underground utilities, the MTRCL, as a project manager, with regard to the expected completion date, more time should be included to enable the company to deal with unforeseen conditions so that works can be completed on time. This is important. That is, more time should be allotted. With regard to a large project, if after A contract is completed and then followed by contract B, the interfacing is very important. Upon completion of contract A, if immediately contract B starts, that will be difficult. More work has been done under such circumstances. Chairman, if my understanding is correct, Mr. Chen meant that the interfacing of the works, with regard to interfacing of the works by the MTRCL has not reserved enough time between the interface of the contracts. I have seen individual incidents. With regard to ground condition, is it the main issue? Ground condition problem occurred to the WKT works. Chairman, my question is about the complexity of the WKT works. This is related to the design. Mr. Chen, you are an expert in this area. With regard to the design should was there well in advance. Has that complexity been taken into account? And in terms of implementation works, has the MTRCL provided adequate time for such a complicated project? The WKT is a big terminus, a size of 11 hectares, north-south distance more than 600 meters, and east-west distance 130 to 200 meters. It is a large-scale project. A lot of excavation was involved, down to 30 meters underground. It's a huge project. The MTRCL, in doing the design, was there any problem? I think it is not appropriate for me to comment on that, but I know that WKT is a very complicated project. In particular, in the northern part, excavation was needed from top to bottom. But in the middle, there is also the need to do arrangement bottom up. In the team of the MTLCL, design consultants are commissioned to conduct such a design.
I think Deputy Chairman's question is, according to your professional judgment in terms of work scheduling, do you think the MPLCL has reserved sufficient time in their advanced works, taking into account the complexity of the underground condition? Has the MTLCL reserved sufficient time for that? Well, to answer this question, I may have to make some comments, but as far as the WKT project is concerned, we believe that we should reserve our position. We should reserve our rights, so it's not appropriate for me to comment here. Chairman, I'd like to ask a follow-up question. In terms of judgment on the project, the Highways Director, Mr. Lau Kaka, at the hearing on the 14th of March, said that the West Kowloon terminus is a very complex project. The Highways Department could not make independent assessment based on the information provided then, and therefore the Highways Department urged the MTLCL to provide a revised work schedule so that they could assess the completion date. And according to the first IBC report, some information on the key progress of projects was kept, and although the MTLCL was requested to provide information by the Highways Department, under some circumstances, the Highways Department could not get the information in a timely manner. So perhaps Mr. Chan or Mr. Tam can supplement as important representatives of the government in supervising the project. It seems in your statement, this was mentioned, that without sufficient information, how could you supervise the project? And with insufficient information, what did you do about that? Did you take any action, or did you not urge the MTLCL to do anything at all? Mr. Chen. Well, in Mr. Lau Kakang's statement, or in the opening remarks, he did say the following, and may I quote the first report 1.38, the first IBC report 1.38. The project manager did not communicate with the government concerning the concerns, and they have to do with the cumulative impact on the project, and that the completion date will be delayed to 2016. Well, this is a public document, and I am just quoting from it. And that is in relation to November 2013. They they informed us that they would not be meeting the completion target first in 2016, first estimated. So since we adopted the indirect supervision approach, and some stakeholders may think that this approach is different from other supervision approach, the supervision will have to be done by a professional team, and the RDO would act as an indirect supervisor. So in terms of supervision, our role has been an indirect one. So as to whether we could urge the MTRCL to recover the delay by implementing any measure. Again, this is also pointed out in the IEP's report, the Independent Expert Panel's report, on whether the government's project team could exercise any supervision, or is there any intervention mechanism available to the project team. This is the Independent Expert Panel's view, and if in the future we have other projects adopting the concession approach, there is a question on whether we should review the intervention mechanism. We believe that it is necessary to review this approach. Well, Mr. Chen, my question was quite simple. You did not get information in a timely manner, or you could not get information in a timely manner. And what have you done about it? And could you just give us a concise answer? Well, apart from report from MTRCL, our project team holds CRMs with the MTRCL, and we also get information on progress of works from that. As to whether we have any information on any obstacles to completion of project, we rely on the MTRCL for this information. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Well, my first question, simple one, first of all, is that can you confirm that these statements are prepared by the witnesses, respectively? Mr. Chan, yes. Because I noticed that it seems that the two statements are, a large part of the two statements are identical to each other. It's a copy and paste method. So can I say that you have asked the same secretary to prepare the statements for you? I can say that they come from the same team, because you just answered that these statements have been prepared by you two respectively, but the content is by and large very similar. So what's your answer to that? We use the same project team to prepare statements, and these statements are confirmed by us respectively. I just want the public to note that these statements are by and large identical to each other, and I wonder if one is copying from the other. Well, as engineers with vast experience in supervising major projects, now if you want to make sure that projects can be completed in time, then one principle should be that in terms of key completion dates, there should be milestones requirements, so that there is something for you to follow in your supervising the project, Mr. Chen. For major construction projects, there usually would be an integrated project timetable, and this would usually be prepared by the MTRCL because their team would be able to come up with this timetable, and this should be done by the MTRCL. And the document should be submitted to us, and it's also included in the annex of the entrustment agreement. There is a rough an estimated timetable. That is, the handover date should be on the 4th of August 2015. Then is this timetable, and yet there is also an integrated timetable covering individual projects. So for this integrated or consolidated timetable, and also the milestones of individual projects, are we talking about the same thing in terms of your oversight of the MTRCL project? Or the MTRCL has a project timetable. Some works may be involved in different projects. For example, you need to do some tunneling work, and only when this part is done can you build a partition or linings, followed by lane of cables and tracks. So there are different parts of works to the project. All right, understood. After receiving this timetable from the MTRCL, have you set key milestones so that you can follow up on these milestones in your supervision? Or did you just rely on the MTRCL's report as a basis? As an indirect supervisor or checker of the MTRCL project, we rely on the MTRCL for the project timetable. But like I said, for individual projects, whether there are individual milestones in the IBC report number 2 of the MTRCL, it is also mentioned that for supervision of the project in a timely manner, they should have included more milestones. I'm asking whether the Highways Department has set milestones for internal reference so that you may be warned in advance. The Highways Department rely on the MTRCL's project timetable. So the Highways Department itself did not set milestones as reference for following up on the progress of works. We rely on the information given by the MTRCL as our reference. The Highways Department has relied on the MTRCL's timetable all along, and yet in November 2013, as pointed out by the IEP's report, it wasn't until then that the cumulative, an analysis of the cumulative delay was conducted. Was it the first time such an analysis was conducted? And would it be an important tool for the government to monitor or supervise the project? A cumulative analysis has all along been conducted in terms of time spent on the project and the cumulative effect. Well, these are mentioned in the MTRCL's monthly report. So by comparing the two figures expressed in percentage, we could identify the delay. So we constantly have this analysis. As well, the cumulative analysis, the percentage can be used in anticipating whether works can be completed in time, and this analysis is done by the MTRCL internally. And we read out just now in paragraph 1.38 that the MTRCL did some analysis, and that's what happened in 2013 as to whether they submitted the analysis to us. So, Chairman, can I confirm that the government itself did not conduct any analysis on the cumulative effect of delays before 2013? Before 2013, we believe that at the time there were some major delays in two of the projects. One is project 826 on the northern side. from a tunnel from the border to Maipo, and we understand that there was a major delay in this project. 2 tunnel boring machines, TBMs, were deployed to create a tunnel from Futian, Shenzhen. Well, we know the details, but before 2013, did the Highways Department conduct any analysis on the cumulative effect of delays internally and inform the THB of the result of the analysis? We did not conduct any quantitative analysis, but in terms of qualitative analysis, we understand that there was a major delay. So before 2013, November 2013, we had been urging the contractor to speed up their work, tunneling work from Fujian. Now, using your word, Mr. Chan, did you conduct any qualitative assessment on the cumulative effect of delays and inform the THB of such an effect? Concerning the delay in the tunneling work, we did inform the THB on the 23rd of July 2013. We invited the MTRCL to report to the THB. Let me have some time to gather information.
Chairman, according to my submission, page 27, concerning the 23rd of 2013, it's page 26 of English version, the request of THB LDO Highways and the MTLCO briefed THB on the overall progress of Hong Kong section and the cross-boundary section. It was forecast that the cross-boundary tunnel civil works would be completed in March 2015. Testing the cross-boundary would commence in July 2015, and the target for revenue service would be December 2015. The government reminded the revenue service would be December 2015. So we did such an estimate. Chairman, Mr. Wu Chiu, why? On the 20th of August 2015, the MTLCO submitted a plan. Mr. Yao Seng-mu said that before he met with the CEO of the MTLCO, he was not aware of the commencement date. Now, did you inform the Highways Department and did you ask him to report to the Policy Bureau? With regard to the MTLCO's proposal of partial commissioning, partially opening the WKT on the 20th of October, the MTLCO raised the proposal initially with the Highways Department. On the 13th of September, formally, the proposal was reported to the Highways Department. The Highways Department, Director of Highways, pointed out that partially opening of, not just limited to the partially opening of WKT, the civil engineering works had to be completed in the vicinity of the, should be completed together with the WKT. The WKT could not operate as an island. Therefore, we did not accept the partial opening of WKT. On the 8th of November 2013, the MTLCO, together with us, reported to the Permanent Secretary of the THB and mentioned partially opening of WKT. In those meetings, the Undersecretary was not present. Chairman, I still have a question. When the MTRCL proposed the DRMs, or delayed recovery measures, were you informed of the cost involved? And did you know, with regard to the these measures, VOs would be required? Were you aware of that or not? And if variation of order was involved, then would approval be required from the Highways Department or RDO? With regard to the DRMs, the MTRCL has the responsibility to make the proposals. And when there is a proposal, the proposal will be made to the PCG, a project control group. And there would be documents submitted to the PGC of the MTRCL, and also documents to the RDO. Our colleagues will study those documents and give our views. And then we'll give our comments to the MTRCL. Any DRM, we're fully aware that any DRM may involve additional costs. In their papers, they will also mention the amounts involved. And then we will make a reservation in the contingency. My question is, if there is variation of order, paragraph 49 concerning the delays with regard to variation order or variation of design, would your approval or would the Highways Department's approval be necessary before the variation can be done? If there is additional cost, then the Highways Department, on behalf of the government, agreed that this arrangement is appropriate. Was it the case? Basically, MTRCL's project director would make the proposal, and then the Highways Department would give the comment with regard to the cost, additional costs involved arising from the variation. Should there be, is there a funding mechanism, or you just make use of the funds within the contract to deal with the variation? We have seen that many claims involve variation. Yes, give him the chance to answer the question. Mr. Chan. On the whole, if there is any variation order, if it is proposed through the project control group, and then reservation provided, that's a decision of the MTRCL. Does it mean that the government agrees and it will be the basis for further funding provided by the government? If I may add, under the EA, the MTRCL, among the $65 billion, there is a contingency. And then under the suitable mechanism, the government also provides the comments. With regard to variation order, the MTRCL has followed its internal mechanism set by Mr. Chen. All the variations, all the claims involved, all additional costs will have to go to the PCG. The project's director will give the approval. In that process, the MTRCL has to provide the documents to the Highways Department. The Highways Department will then give comments. In this process, the project's director, in giving the approval, will have to consider the comments of the Highways Department. To answer Mr. Wu directly, the approval is to be made by the project's director of the MTRCL. The government just gives the comments. They only spend within the contingency of the $65 billion. If they have to go beyond $65 billion, they will have to go through another mechanism to apply for from the government. That is a follow-up question. In respect of a question raised by Mr. Wu, DRM, Mr. Lo Wai Kwok also asked a similar question. With regard to the DRMs, they introduced the DRMs again and again, but the delay is getting more and bigger and bigger. In raising the DRMs by the MTRCL, do you have any assessment mechanism, independent assessment mechanism, to assess whether the DRMs are effective? Is it done by you or by your consultants? If there is. With regard to the DRMs and their effectiveness, when the paper is submitted to the PCG, mention was made to the effectiveness of DRMs. Of course, it must be mentioned, otherwise you wouldn't have accepted that. But would there be an independent assessment? The Highways Department gives comments. We, of course, read the papers and the logic and the reasons, the thinking, and whether they are practicable. But in terms of implementation, then there will be comparison with the situation on site, and whether the situation on site fit in with the documents. We need to do the comparison in order to consider the effectiveness of the DRMs. In implementing the DRMs, there may also be unforeseen conditions encountered. The effectiveness of the DRMs will therefore be mitigated, and that is also unforeseen. But we also have to look into that as far as possible. Mr. Gary Fan, Chairman, I have two questions for Mr. Chan and another two for Mr. Tam, but before I ask, I have a procedural proposal. I hope you will carefully consider that. The chairman of the MTRCL, Mr. Chen, refused to attend our hearing. Mr. Fan, is it relevant to the witnesses? We've given Mr. Chen the notice many months before, and he refused it many times. I received the notice that Mr. Walder will not attend the meeting, and also Mr. Chiu Tai Chang is not attending. Now, Mr. Chen is in Hong Kong. He should work with this council. Well, I want to remind you that concerning our internal discussion, we should not bring that in the open. And this is also not related to the witnesses. This is closely related to our duties and functions. Please ask your question. Yes, I will. I will put my question to witness. We need to state our position. We want to inform the MTRCL that they need to work with our investigation, though we don't have the electoral powers and privileges ordinance, privilege and powers given to us. I just want to state this proposal very clearly. We need to deal with that in our internal discussion. Mr. Chairman, according to your submission on paragraph 61, according to the assessment of the consultant, there will be a delay of 11 months. You clearly know the delay. The Highways Department, therefore, at the PSC asked the MTRCL to give an overall an amended overall program in August, but the MTRCL didn't honor the promise. Therefore, starting from November 2013 at each PSC meeting, the Highways Department urged the MTRCL to provide the revised program. Now you mentioned the Highways Department urged the MTRCL many times. Do you think the urging is adequate and effective? What we have seen is that all along, from the beginning to the end, the MTRCL has never given any importance to the urging of the Highways Department. You mentioned many levels of supervision, independent consultant, monitoring the MTRCL. But if the MTRCL has not responded to your urging, what have you done to require the MTRCL to provide the amended overall program?
Mr. Chen, in para 61 of my statement, in 2013, it was mentioned, according to the report, that there was a potential delay of almost 11 months. But there is some misunderstanding here, it seems. There is a discrepancy with the IEP report. In July 2013, it was estimated that there could be a 7-month delay. But if nothing was done, then the delay would get more serious, and then the potential delay would amount to 11 months. And we mentioned this to the MTRCL. So there is some misunderstanding here. Are you saying that there is the independent expert panel misunderstood that? Right. There is a delay of 7 months, but there is a potential delay of 11 months. So what about the revised program? We have been urging the MTRCL. Yes, apart from that, may I refer members to the meetings of the subcommittee on matters relating to railway held on the 5th and 19th of May. It was mentioned in the papers that in October 2013, the MTRCL made a formal request or suggestion to the the contractor of the West Kowloon project, and that was October 2013. Well, Mr. Gary Fan was asking what else the government did apart from urging the MTRCL to do something. We had been urging the MTRCL to come up with a revised program, and we found that in para 52J of the paper mentioned, in terms of contract 810A concerning the commissioning of the West Kowloon terminus, the MTRCL was asking the contractor to make an undertaking, and on this not until the 30th of March, the contractor report to the MTRCL that the original program, original completion date in the program could not be met. So the contractor, being in the best position to know the situation at the site, suggested that there would be a delay of 5 months, and the MTRCL relied on the information from the contractor. And therefore, we relied on the MTRCL's information. So, in other words, Mr. Chen, you're suggesting that the government relied on the MTRCL, which relied on the contractor. Now, my question is, according to para 30 of your statement, you mention that key information had been kept from the Highways Department or withheld from the Highways Department. So are you saying that the contractor should be ultimately responsible? Well, this is in fact coming from the IBC's report, and we only learned about this statement from the IBC's first report. So what did you do after knowing about this? We only knew about this after the IBC's report in 2014 was released. Mr. Chan, you mentioned in para 27 that the MTRCL did not provide key information to the Highways Department according to the established reporting mechanism. So are you suggesting that the Highways Department's assessment was affected because of the lack of information, such that there is a causal link here between the provision of information and the delay? Mr. Tam. According to the first IBC report, indeed, the MTRCL had failed to report key information to us in a timely manner. And as mentioned by Mr. Chan, under the system of check the checker, we have a team of a dozen in the Highways Department. Are you suggesting that it has to do with a lack of manpower? Now, this is the approach that we're adopting, and the MTRCL has an establishment of over 900. So are you saying that you're short of staff? So under this system or mechanism, the MTRCL should report any information to us in a timely manner. But like Mr. Chan said just now, we did not just solely rely on information from the MTRCL. So, Mr. Chan, Mr. Tam, can you answer directly? Is it because of the failure to provide information to you in a timely manner that your assessment on whether there would be a delay was affected? Well, as mentioned in the para 25, if the MTRCL, being the project proponent, failed to provide information to us in a timely manner, and in fact in November 2013, the project team already assessed that the project would be delayed till 2016, and yet we were still told that the completion date was 2015, and had they told us, we would have understood. So the GM, GM in the CRM had been liaising with the project manager. So my question for Mr. Tam is this: although the MTRCL may not have been providing key information to you, you still have information at hand. Then what is the reason for failing to assess the delay? Now, project delays, as explained just now, does not mean that the completion date would necessarily be pushed back. So unforeseen circumstances may cause delays in projects. As to whether the completion date may have to be postponed, depends on effective TRMs. Well, Mr. Fan, please allow me to explain. Well, I know, but you're just repeating what others have said. But that's the fact. Well, when you talk about recovering delays, the project manager, the MTRCL, would implement DRMs to catch up with the progress, and the key to that is to get first-hand information, to get details of the project. Well, I'm asking the Highways Department. I'm not asking about MTRCL and the contractor. That's why you're attending this hearing. I'm asking you. We have a project team of 10 staff or so in the Highways Department, we did not have the first-hand information from MTRCL. Has it to do with the establishment or manpower then? Under this mechanism, the MTRCL as the manager should give us information. So has it to do with insufficient information, or was it more important to review the information? These are two different matters. Well, I think, Mr. Fan, what is important is that we have only a team of 10 staff or so, and we have deployed different measures, including site inspections, to identify the problems. Well, but you are implying that under the existing system, you're short of staff. Well, Mr. Fan, please allow him to finish his answers. Let's not turn the examination into debate. I will arrange for Mr. Fan to ask in the second round. Well, under the existing system, we take the approach of check the checker. That is to use our existing resources to supervise the MTRCL through site supervision, site inspections, and various meetings. We request the MTRCL to provide information to us in the timely manner for us to cross-check with them. And if there is a delay, the MTRCL, according to the EA, is responsible to strive to catch up with the delay. In the process, the Highways Department also coordinate with other departments to help them catch up with the delay, with the progress. Let me give you another example. In the cross-border project, because of the delay in the delivery of machinery, the other departments had meetings with the mainland counterpart and urging them to submit reports. This is what the Highways Department has been doing. All right, Mr. Tan Ka Pio. Well, then this is quite peculiar. Of course, there should be more foot soldiers than the superior rank. Are you suggesting that you should have a team of 900 to supervise their work? So that was a very good question. The answer we get is that you're only giving advice on cost overrun and project delays. You did not actually intervene effectively. So do you think that the RDO has been influenced by the consultants' suggestion that the government should avoid intervening in or micromanage the project? Have you tried to get an understanding on the progress of the MTRCL project, and have you ever done anything in writing, including the issuance of warnings urging the MTRCL to complete the project in time and within budget? Have you done that? Now, as to whether the RDO communicates directly with the contractor of the MTRCL, supposedly the MTRCL should be the project management team, because the MTRCL has a contractual relationship with the contractor. One being, so when a problem is identified, it should be the MTRCL which urges the contractor to do something or to avoid delays. The government does not have a relationship with the contractor. There is no channel for communication, but you have a supervisory role with a supervisory power. You can urge the MTRCL to supervise the contractor. Yes, we supervise the MTRCL, so we can urge the MTRCL, but it was not necessary for us to instruct the MTLCL to supervise the contractor, because naturally the MTLCL has a contractual relationship with the contractor. So you can urge the MTLCL, but it's up to the MTLCL whether to urge the contractor. Is that right? Well, basically, the relationship with MTLCL is in the EA. It is, of course, the MTLCL's responsibility to urge the contractor. But did you ever suspect the work of MTLCL because of the gap? And did you directly follow this up with the contractor? In short, we did not pursue this directly with the contractor because this should be the responsibility of the MTLCL.
Yeah. Did you issue any letter warning the MTLCL seriously that the progress is not satisfactory? On this point, we did a review. The IEP, among the recommendations of the IEP, one is that in adopting the concession approach, there is no measurement standard. The IEP, there is no specific standard of measurement. Say, in assessing the MTLCL, how is the performance of the project team to be measured? With regard to a large-scale project, if a consultant is commissioned to monitor the project in comparison with the MTLCL monitoring the project, there is a big difference. In the entrustment agreement, there is no provision on assessing the performance of the MTLCL. Under such circumstances, we haven't written anything to the MTLCL with regard to its performance. The PGE, with regard to value for money assessment, this council has approved a sum of money to enable you to employ a team of engineers. You say a dozen or so engineers are not enough, but in comparison with other railway projects, this team is specifically for the express rail, and you also have resources for commissioning consultants. There is no measuring yardstick. As it was pointed out by the former Director of Highways on the 2nd of June in the hearing, the system is dead, but humans are living. Why don't you make use of your professional assessment to consider whether the information provided was adequate, and in terms of budget and progress, was it satisfactory? Why didn't you use your own expertise and professional assessment? When you received the report by Jacobs, they said that it was not, they were not able to meet the targets, but the MTLCL claimed that they would be able to meet the targets. So you just rely on the words of the MTLCL and put Jacobs' report aside. Why you did that? With regard to the observation raised by the consultants, and also with regard to our site meeting, site inspection, and also information obtained from the CRM, we were aware of the delay, and we kept urging the MTLCL to introduce the DRMs and implement the DRMs. In the entrustment agreement, we required the MTLCL to be the project manager. It has its own professional capabilities and expertise. This is within the system. Basing on the views of the consultants, we built the system basing on the Lloyd's report, we built this monitoring mechanism. And this is a way of managing, monitoring the project. The MTLCL will do the project management. The MTLCL would supervise the contractors, and then reports, timely reports should be made to the government, to the highways department in particular. And then, upon obtaining the information, we report to the THB in a timely manner. So you just play the role of a messenger. Is it what you think? Or will you screen the information provided by the MTRCL? In 2013, there were delays found. Did you, being a professional, queried the position of the MTRCL and also raised this with the THB? According to the MTRCL report, we submitted our own report together with regard to the substantial delay. In August 2013, together with the MTRCL, we reported to the THB. In July and also in November 2013, we reported to the Permanent Secretary on the delay. And another work is not just to supervise the MTRCL. We are also playing a coordination role. In my submission, I also said that coordination, the task of coordination was rather big. We worked with other government departments in assisting the MTRCL. Say, for example, temporary traffic diversion, the PGE. Did you ever raise the issue with the THB that you had doubts about the information provided by MTRCL or something was missing in the report by the MTRCL? We didn't raise our query that the MTRCL had underreported certain information. Now, I want to ask, with regard to your team supervising the MTRCL, how much time in terms of proportion on monitoring whether the MTRCL could complete the project in time? Now, to answer the question with a percentage, simple percentage, is difficult. As I've said in the submission, if it is difficult, then time has ended for my part. But are you just working together with the MTRCL rather than monitoring the MTRCL? We have several roles. We monitor the MTRCL in terms of implementing the works of the express rail. We provide information in a timely manner to the THB. In another role, we also work with the MTRCL in terms of delivering the project and assist the MTRCL. For example, say in terms of the temporary or traffic measures, say yes, coordination work. Okay. Maybe we have a break of 10 minutes. 3 members have signed up to ask questions, but they have yet to ask questions, and they are Mr. Michael Tian, Ms. Claudia Mo, and Mr. Chen Hangban. Those who want a second round, Mr. Tang Ka-piu, Mr. Wu Chi-wai, Mr. Frankie Yik, the first round. 10-minute break.